And the discussions continue at this time. The election into chairmanship and councillorship positions in Lagos State held on Saturday, July the 22nd across the 20 local government areas and 37 local council development areas of the state.
Now, despite heavy downpour, voters turned out en masse to exercise their franchise and elect credible candidates of their choice. Election observers have described the polls as peaceful.
Well, results have been announced for 14 local governments so far, and the All Progressives Congress won all 14. Before the end of today, the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission, that's LASYEC, will announce the remaining results.
All right, well, joining us now to discuss the fallout of the Lagos State local government election as the executive chairman of the Committee for the Protection of the People's Mandate, Nelson Ekujimi. Good morning and thanks for joining us. Ambode voted in Ekpe and called on Lagosians to defy the rain and come out and vote. Did people really listen to that call? Did they defy the rains?
Well, the truth of the matter is that the election was characterized by voters' apathy. Okay. And the result is not far-fetched. Quite a number of reasons could be adduced for that. The rain was a very critical factor. While the rain stopped in some areas, it rained throughout and heavily in other areas to such an extent that some of the polling units had to be relocated as a result of a flood. So by and large, the turnout for the election by the voters was not encouraging. But you know, democracy is a game of numbers. If, like the Bible says, many are called but few are chosen. So the election was held in an atmosphere that was, you know, in tandem with the democratic spirit. It was not left for the electorate, you know, to exercise their franchise or refuse to do that. You
were an observer during the election, so and there were reports of polling officers not going to their centers at all. And then, of course, delay in some polling materials getting to some centers. Did you see all this?
Well, I started with Ikosi Sherry LCDA. As at about 9:35, 40 a.m. thereabout, the electoral officers were nowhere to be found in most of the polling units I visited. But fortunately enough, I saw voters there. I saw security personnel as well as the party agents. Leaving Ikosi Sherry LCD, I moved to Onigbongbo or Oregun Road axis. And I saw that the election had commenced at about _9. And when I made inquiries, I was told that they arrived there at about 8 a.m. Each polling unit had an average of between 2 to 3 security personnel, totally unarmed. Then I saw the party agents as well there. And, you know, accreditation and voting went on simultaneously. Getting to Ikeja, I witnessed the same scenario. But in some other areas from the reports we had, like Agege, like Bariga, like Inoshudi, the LASYEC officials didn't arrive on time. But the good thing about their late arrival, which we can, you know, also adduce to the rains that must have disrupted the logistics, is that in most of the polling units where they delayed, where they came in maybe around _9 or thereabout, they extended the voting time till _3, which was supposed to be the official closing time.
All right, now you talked about the rains having caused a lot of apathy. Apart from the rains, do you think Lagosians, the electorate in Lagos, really had confidence in that process? Looking at, you know, what kind of public enlightenment really went on to educate the people about the candidates? Well, how many of those people were really known to the electorate, apart from the big, you know, billboards and
well, you know that people who are vying for election or public offices at the local government level are usually people who are not very known, who have not made a career in public service. Unlike when we have somebody vying for the position of a governor or of the president, this must have been somebody who has made his mark politically.
Yeah, but you would expect that those same people would have made some mark within their localities.
Yes, but the reality on ground is that even the people at the grassroots, they have this general attitude that, you know, what is it about local government? What can they do? We have not, we don't feel their impact. I don't see the reason why I should vote. So you read some people's comment telling you that I went there, and when they were not there, I cannot waste my time. And you ask yourself, you cannot waste your time with your fundamental rights. So generally, what it shows you clearly is that we have not done justice to ourselves. Because if we are clamoring that we have been shortchanged by our political leaders, how are we playing our own part to remedy the situation? Because once the political class realizes that we are politically conscious, that we are politically active, it will keep them on their toes. But a situation whereby you feel it's of no essence, and you are only interested in voting at the federal and state level. Because whether we like it or not, look at the present scenario we have on our hands with regards to the legislature and the executive at the federal level. It's because of the fact that when it comes to election time, we pay little or no attention to who becomes the senator or a member of House of Reps. Meanwhile, that arm of government is very, very critical, to the success of any administration.
To the grassroots. Yeah, and of course, that question really somehow is apt, because many residents online on the social media and even on the streets were saying that they didn't really know the aspirants, and so there was no need for them to go out. And monitoring the social media days before the election and on that election day, people said almost the same thing, that some said because they knew their votes wouldn't count, that was why they wouldn't bother themselves going out. So would you say it's because of years of the service to the electorate in the country that could make some to disenfranchise themselves?
That is also a factor, but you realize that we have passed that bridge now. In the past, our votes didn't count. But with the present reform that has gone into the electoral system, and we must give a big kudos to LASEC for the way they conducted the election, unlike maybe in other states that we have had reports of which I've never been a part of monitoring an election at some other state local government level, except maybe Ogun State, is that the electoral system is such that elections are conducted now using PVC, using e-card reader, and the moment the election is concluded at the polling units, results are announced in the presence of the voters, election observers, security agents, party agents. And these party agents and the security officials sign a copy of the election results. So if these stakeholders are present and they can see this thing, I wonder how they want it to count again than what they can see with their eyes. Of course, the card reader was not really used. It was not used, but the PVC was used, and the electoral register was used. So the electoral officer identified you with the electoral register, because on the electoral register, your name is written and your details, as well as your picture, is embossed on it. So the electoral officer verifies that the person standing before him is, is the person whose name or whose picture is there, and also the party agents are there watching. The election observers are watching. The security officials are also watching. But
there are still incidents of violence recorded in some parts of the state, Odiolowo, Oshodi, Mushin areas of the state. And then a police officer alongside two other thugs posing as LASEC officials were arrested around Agege with stuffed ballot boxes already thumbprinted for a party. Did you notice any of this in any of the areas you visited?
I didn't notice, but I read the reports. But that is a reflection of the desperado mentality of our political class, that they want to get there at all costs. And that is also a reminder to us that some of these persons are not really interested in offering service to the people. Rather, they are interested in what they can get for themselves. So you cannot rule out that in an exercise of that nature, that there will not be some infraction. But we must give a big kudos to the security agencies for the way they conducted themselves. There were street patrols, in vehicles, and there were roadblocks where if you don't have a legitimate,
even the commissioner was out.
Yes, they will pull you, they will return you back, and they were very polite, in the discharge of their function. So we must commend the security agencies for their prompt arrival, for their quick deployment to polling stations and other trouble spots. And the Mushi you mentioned about, the commissioner of police himself was personally on ground at those areas to help, alleviate the situation.
Let's look generally at the conduct of elections in this part of the world, whether it's the local government, governorship, or presidential election. Would you say that we have matured, or we're showing some signs of maturity so far democratically in the way we conduct our elections, where we have to deploy so many policemen, to watch over us?
Yes, the situation in our climb is that, it's a mix, in the sense that the electoral umpire, as well as some agencies of states, are trying to live up to their responsibility. But by and large, we the voters, as well as the political class, we still have a long way to go. The political class have this mentality of do or die. Apology to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who made that statement. And also, the voters require a lot of voters' education, because I don't know what can make a man or a woman to refuse to perform his civic responsibility that will determine who presides over his economic, political, and social destiny for a fixed number of years. Because whether you like it or not, you live in a local government. Whether you like it or not, the local government has some functions under the Constitution. Well, so if somebody who is not qualified to be there is allowed to get there because you refuse to play your part, then we all suffer the consequences.
If you do not vote, do not complain. Thank you for your analysis. Nelson Ekujimi, you are a member of a committee for the protection of people's mandate, and of course an electoral observer during the local government election in the state. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we had to discuss this, because we have to wrap. But I would have thrown in, it was a landslide. Is it good for democracy? Yes or no?
Once is the choice of the people.
Okay, what is it?
It's the people's choice that matters.
A very diplomatic answer there.
Yeah, well,
Nelson Ekujimi, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.